Welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. When you're ready to transform your sales for today's transforming market, we've got you covered. With your host, the queen of cold calling and founder of Salesology, award-winning author, speaker, sales trainer, and coach, Wendy Weiss.
Hi, welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. And I'm your host, Wendy Weiss. I am the founder of Salesology and the Salesology Prospecting Method. And I'm also known as the queen of cold calling. Today, I have a very special guest. I am here with Holly Chantal, and Holly Chantal has been helping visionary coaches and service professionals for over a decade. She helps them enroll more clients into their high-ticket offers and develop the business infrastructure, so important, the business infrastructure that they need to reach the next stage of their growth. So if you are looking for someone that can quickly grasp what you do in all of its complexity and help you find the best path forward to double your revenue in just 90 days, then Holly is definitely the woman to contact. So welcome, Holly.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so I'm curious. I had wanted to ask you about the buyer's decision-making process, but before I do that, how did you become Holly Chantal? What's the backstory?
Well, it all started in 1984. No, it's funny that you say that you ask it that way because I know you mean, how did I get to where I am? But the name Holly Chantal is actually a persona. So it's very interesting that you said, how did you become Holly Chantal? Because that's actually my first and my middle name. And there's actually a whole story as to why I did that. And I find that a lot of people in business do the same thing. So maybe I'll share that story. So when I first started my business back in 2009, I was getting into the coaching world as a website designer and copywriter. And I was, well, still am, highly introverted and was having a difficulty feeling like I could really put myself out there confidently because I grew up in Maine. Neither of my parents went to college, and I felt really strange putting myself out there as this expert to help people build their businesses when I was, in my early 20s and had all this story behind me. So that was one of the first things I did actually, was just make the decision to use a different name that helped me kind of step out into a different persona without all of the history behind it and the story that I'd been telling myself for years of who I was and how I should be showing up. And so I started off as Holly Chantal. That came as this is also a funny story, maybe you'll appreciate. I was at a mastermind event, and a couple of the other coaches and I were talking, and they were discussing what their stripper names would be. And I said that when I was younger and was posting art online, internet safety, you're taught not to use your last name, I went by Holly Chantal, and they said, "Oh, that's a really good name. You should use that." And that's kind of how the name came about, as my persona.
Well, that is so interesting, Holly, that you say that, because one, I am also an introvert, so we have two introverts here today talking. And the other thing is that when I started my business about 25 years ago, I had clients that I would represent, and I did business development for them, and I never used my own name. I always made up a persona for that client, and I would have a name that went along with that persona. And that it did make it easier for me to be who I needed to be. So I'm curious for you, has in the years that you've been doing this now, and you're Holly Chantal, has that merged with your original persona?
Yes, I the behind the scenes at home Holly has definitely become much more Holly Chantal and much more confident, and vice versa. I've also learned how to really bring the more subdued side and the more thoughtful side and an insightful side of the actual Holly into my business. So I found a balance. I mean, I've been doing this for 13, 14 years now. So I would hope that there'd be some evolution during that time. But it actually has been really, really liberating to kind of be able to play both sides and test out different sides of your personality and decide, what parts you're going to bring out of yourself into both marketing and at home.
Yes. And it is true. It is very liberating to leave behind the parts that you think aren't working for whatever reason and just be who you need to be in that moment in time. Which is what I experienced when I started my business.
Yeah, and if you looked at my old website and brand back from during that time when I was launching, I was the Land of brand, and it was a very over the top, very creative, thematic. Everything was themed, like just very. There was a lot of effort put into just being much louder than I really am, and that evolution kind of took me to 2019 was when I rebranded. But leading up to there was a couple years there where it was like, this isn't working. I've outgrown this. I feel like living into this persona just doesn't feel right anymore. And that had caused actually a lot of trouble in my business. And that's kind of what I'm helping people with now, is when they've reached that same point where they've outgrown things, something needs to change and you're not sure what's in alignment. For me, I was trying to live into my business persona as someone much, much more outgoing and louder and shinier, look at me, than I really am. So I rebranded in 2019 as just Holly Chantal. And I feel like my website now, like it's much calmer. It's much more, what did someone call it? Cozy, cozy. And now I really lean hard on what I really have to bring to the table, which is the insight and the knowledge and the subtlety and the nuances, which is really the brilliance of what I do in messaging. And so now it's kind of come full circle in that the Holly behind the scenes is actually better as to market than kind of where I was before.
Okay. Well, since we're talking about it, what is your website?
So my website is just hollychantal.com, and Chantal is Chantal.
Okay. Well, we are going to post that in the show notes so everyone can just click on it. So you and I had a conversation a while ago about the buyer's decision-making process. And I know that for many business owners, entrepreneurs, the buyer's decision-making process is a complete mystery. So what is the buyer's decision-making process?
Yeah. So, I mean, you're in sales, so you know the idea of the pipeline and warm prospects versus cold prospects. And these are all the terms that we use when we're talking about enrolling people into a program and how you're marketing. And the way this actually was something I became aware of a few years ago when I was learning about funnels, and there's like top of funnel content versus bottom of funnel content and what types of topics you're supposed to use. And that really clarified for me what the decision-making process looked like, where someone is just becoming aware that they have a problem that they want to solve. And there's so many people marketing to audiences that don't realize they have a problem they want to solve. They're either unaware that there's an alternative to the experience they're having and they just think it's normal life, or they're just not interested in solving it. So they it's not something that they value highly enough to invest time, energy, and money into. But there's a point, and I call it like the first shift that happens in your marketing, where someone, it's almost like an awakening, and they decide, I need to fix this. Like, no matter what, I need to find a solution because I can't do it this way anymore. I can't live this way anymore. I can't run my business this way anymore. Whatever industry you're in, that The words are different, but the shift is the same. The shift is that they make a commitment that they're gonna make a change. So I call that, so in my what I call the buyer's arc, which is kind of what I've dubbed this process, that's the first step, which is awareness. Once they've done that and they've made that shift, they're going to start researching how. This is usually where they come across your marketing, when they are asking friends how did they do it, or do they have anyone that they would refer to, or come across your blog, your social media, something that you're putting out there, a webinar maybe. And they're just, at this point, they're figuring out, like, what are my options? And if you've ever bought a house or chosen a college or something like that, you've gone through this process before. And during this phase is where, like, let's say we're looking at real estate, you'd be typing in the zip code that you're looking for and maybe the number of bedrooms. And that's kind of where you start. It's kind of like a very vague idea what you're looking for. But as you start doing your research and you start seeing what's available, you really start to start creating like this value structure of what it is you value in a solution, and what are the things that you don't really care for or like are ethically against, especially when it comes to services, especially when it comes to service for coaches and consultants, and those are in the expert space. There's so much that goes with in the expert space that's just goes beyond skill, experience, and that kind of thing. And there's a lot of more cultural, more opinions, beliefs, that kind of thing that come into it. So you have to make sure you really resonate with the person on a personal level. So all of these things go into what makes someone decide to work with you. So once they've kind of laid out their options, they move into the next phase, which is the comparison phase. The comparison phase is where they take that value structure that they've built and they start seeing who ticks the boxes, what are the different service providers that they've considered, and who are the ones that tick the most boxes on what they value, and that don't have any of the things that they don't care for or, are against morally or just otherwise. And then from there, that's where they start to move forward to making a decision. And this is where most marketing ends. Like, once someone has booked that call, there might be a follow-up sequence or something like that, but they think the rest of the sales process is basically done on the phone. And this is where I do things a little bit differently. And maybe it's just the introvert in me. Maybe it's that I like to make decisions on my own. I don't like to make decisions on the phone with someone because I feel pressured. I don't want to make it uncomfortable. I might be interested, but I can't say yes right now. So there's just like this whole dynamic that happens. So the way I manage this part of the sales process for my clients is, once you've booked a call, there's additional information about what I have to offer. There's additional information where they can kind of binge some of my content to get a really good idea on my philosophy and how I work and me as a person. And what I found is that gets someone 80% of the way to already making a decision before they get on the phone. And then I don't have to do a lot on the phone. So I like to empower my buyers to make their decision on their own before they actually get on the phone with me. And some folks, that's just not how they make a decision, and they'll get on the phone and they'll still have a lot of questions and that kind of thing. And that's fine. But I feel like this way it kind of suits those different personality types. Some people need to talk it out, and that's why we have the phone call. And then some people, they just need to have their questions answered and have the time and the space they need to make a decision without being on the phone. And then when we do get to the call, it's really just logistics, taking the payment, setting up the first meeting, and that kind of thing. So just to recap, that's awareness, research, comparison, then decide to move forward. But then there's the commit stage, and that's the end where they actually have handed over money, signed a contract, and let's go.
So I'm curious, do you find that, essentially what I hear you saying is you're doing a lot of nurturing up front before you actually speak with a prospect. But there's videos, you can read a white paper, there's all sorts of content you can give someone, but until they actually talk to you, how are they going to make that decision?
So when you say it that way, it's funny because to me it sounds like it would take a long time and there's a lot of content there. And I think that's also a like misnomer here that at least when I hear nurturing, I think long term. My best clients usually sign up within about 48 hours of becoming aware of me. And so the trick here is that there's information that they can consume on the front end, usually a webinar, that takes them from awareness all the way to decide. And I do that by using examples that really speak to where my ideal clients are, the experiences that they've had, the things that they've tried before. So really digging into what their experience has been, and then demonstrating. So not just telling them that my way of doing things is different, but demonstrating my process and the thought process behind it and the insight, and pairing that with examples for my clients to really demonstrate and show them what they could expect. That usually gets someone leaning into, if they resonate with my philosophy and what I call your methodology, which is not just how you do things, but why you do it that way, then they'll book a call. The next piece is actually only one page. So it's if you've gotten this far, if you've booked a call, you're interested in working together on X, Y, and Z that I talked about on the webinar, here are more details about what that would look like. So that's where we're talking about, this is the price point. This is how long we'd be working together. These are the specific things that we will be doing on each call. So all of that information that kind of helps them immerse themselves into, okay, this is what it looks like. Is this what I really want to do? And what happens when someone gets to between the decide and the commit phase? So that's like when they've booked a call and like I said, most people, they just get on the phone and that's it. What happens here is there's the person leaning in, but then they start talking themselves out of it. Even if they're really keen on it, they'll start talking themselves out of it and start questioning, is this the best next step? Is there something I should be doing before this? How is this going to impact me financially? Do I have enough time, energy, whatever resources available to actually make the most of this investment? And do I see getting an ROI? Those are really complex questions. And they're not questions that can be answered on the phone. There's something that the person has to be able to process those things. So that's why all of the kind of pre-call information speaks to those types of questions. So it answers those questions. And so it's one page, that's the video. And then below that, there's the testimonials, like the social proof. And then I say, here's a list of some podcast interviews I've done, a couple webinars, and some blog posts that just kind of give you an idea of how I work, who I am, that kind of thing. And pick 2 or 3 to watch before our call, just so that, you've done your due diligence and you kind of know who I am before we get on. And then on the call, we'll talk about the program that you're interested in, and just make sure it's a good fit for you and that this is your best next step. I find that many people come to the call having watched everything. Like they binged on Holly Chantal for the last 24 hours. And they all their questions are answered. They know all my stuff. We're now speaking the same language. They know the terms that I use and the jargon and all of those things. So it really has already started to indoctrinate them into working together. And most of the time, my sales calls only last 10 to 15 minutes because it's really just an affirmation and validation that they're on the right track. And yes, everything that they've assumed up until this point is right on. Yes, I can help you. And then sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's, I don't think this is the best next step for you. You need to do this first and then come back to me. So I'm very upfront about that throughout the process, that, I'm going to be honest. If I don't think I can help you, or I think there's something better to do first, I'm going to tell you, because I don't want to mess up my track record. I want my case studies. I want to be able to say, what my success record is. And if I take too many clients that it's a stretch to get them there, it hurts those stats. So you can rely on that too.
absolutely do not want to hurt your stats. So you said something that I thought was just so interesting. And I sort of flipped it around into wondering about the mistakes that people make in this process, not your prospects, but other sales professionals, coaches, business owners. So we're going to pause right now for a word from our sponsor. But when we come back, I'm going to grill you on the mistakes that people make in this process. So now, a word from our sponsor, Salesology 3X Appointments. You know how frustrating and stressful it is when you leave every sales meeting wondering if your sales team knows how to sell because they're not selling and all you ever hear from them are excuses. They blame your marketing, they say you need to do more social media, and they say you need a new website. You know something's wrong, but you don't quite know what it is, and you're even starting to wonder if it's you. You don't have a lot of options. You could fire them all and start from scratch, and that would be expensive. And you're really sick of waking up in the middle of the night wondering how to fix this. Well, imagine instead that you have an easy-to-use, replicable system that ensures that your team can easily schedule qualified appointments. And imagine that your team is excited and motivated. No more excuses, and you feel good. Salesology 3X Appointments can make that happen. If you're a business owner or a sales manager with an underperforming sales team, let's talk. Click on the link to my calendar in the show notes and schedule a time. And I look forward to meeting you. So we are back with Holly Chantal talking about the buyer's decision-making process and Holly's special process to get them there. So what I heard you say earlier, Holly, one of the mistakes that I see a lot are salespeople that spend a lot of time with prospects that are not really qualified. Sales term, qualified. They either don't really have the problem or they don't have the budget or they're not really the one that can make the decision or there's something that's standing in the way. And they're very unlikely to become clients. And so what I heard you describe was a process by which you get your prospects to qualify themselves out before you ever speak with them, which is pretty darn brilliant. So did I understand what you were sharing before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, not everyone gets that nuance there, but yes, the goal is that they're pre-qualifying themselves, whether that be in or out. So I do have people after a webinar who book a call, and then when they land on that next page where it's really talking about the program, the price point, et cetera, they cancel the call before we get on the phone because they know that it's just not in the stars for them. One thing I do want to say about qualified customers, though, is I find that a lot of my clients come to me and their idea of a qualified customer is someone that is able to write the check. So kind of what you're saying, like they have the financial means, they're the decision maker, all of that. And the way I look at qualifying a prospect is you have to really understand who you're going to be able to do your best work with and who values your work the most, because the ability to pay is not always going to be the best indicator of an ideal client, because you'll be surprised about how many people you would put in the no ability to pay category that will make it work. They'll make it happen because they're go-getters, they're action takers. They have a good success record on being able to turn around an ROI. So what I do is I kind of pinpoint what are the things they need to come to the table with in order for it to be easy for me to get them the result that they want. So for example, at the beginning, you were reading my bio and you said, if you want to double or triple your revenue in the next 90 days, there are certain parameters that you have to have in place in order for me to be able to confidently say, yes, we can do that. If you're at a certain stage of your business, maybe you're starting out, maybe your client flow is just like too slow, we're not going to be able to speed that up very quickly. It takes a while to get traction. On the other hand, if you are already marketing on a consistent basis and you're just not getting leads, or if you're marketing on a consistent basis and your price point is lower than it could be, then actually it's very easy. So my sweet spot is you have to be making at least $3,000 to $5,000 a month, and you have to have a proven offer. If you have those two things, I have a really good success record of getting someone to $3,000 to $5,000 up to $10,000 a month in about 60 to 90 days. Because what I find is that at that price point, most people are actually not charging an appropriate amount for their services. So it's very easy to double or triple your revenue if we raise your price, as long as you're already getting leads in the door. Now, we could raise your price. If you're not getting leads in the door, the price actually doesn't matter. You're still not going to get clients until we've tested the offer and validated it and that kind of thing. The other thing is that even if your price point is appropriate, I find that if you're marketing on a regular basis and you have an audience that you're not just, when I say market, I mean, we're not talking about we're just putting out anonymous blog posts or posting on social media. I'm talking about like we have an audience that is the right audience, should be interested in your product, but you're not getting the number of leads that you would like, or they're the wrong leads. 9 times out of 10, actually no, 10 times out of 10, it's a messaging issue. There's a mismatch between the examples you're using, how your offer is being positioned, how you're describing what you do, that they're just not seeing that you're the right person. And fix that, and the leads start coming in immediately. So you have to know, what are those metrics for you? Like, what are the metrics that someone has to have in place in order for you to get them the result quickly and easily, and be really confident that they're going to be a really good case study for you.
So do you see, because I see this a lot, business owners, sales professionals that don't actually know what their sweet spot is, or what is the profile of an ideal prospect. And, when I'm working with my clients, and I'll ask them the question, describe an ideal prospect. And they'll say, oh, everyone can use this. Or they'll say, well, we're looking for clients that really appreciate what we do.
And they're not wrong, because I up until like the last couple of years, like I worked with people that were just at the beginning stages, because I am really good at putting together offers. I'm really good at helping people figure out what their first brand is and what their first offer is. And I'm really good at those things. I'm also really good at helping someone that's at 7 figures be able to shift and rebrand and, change what they're doing without cannibalizing what's already working. Like, I'm really good at these things. You can be really, really good at working with a lot of different people. You have to figure out what that sweet spot is if you want to hang your hat on it. And if you want to make that the pinnacle and get that track record. Because up until a few years ago, I really struggled with really understanding who my ideal clients were, because some people would get amazing results, and then other people I would be really frustrated because I would leave them with this like amazing copy, this amazing website and everything. And then they never did anything with it. Or I'd find like 2 years later, they're doing something else, or they closed their business. And I always took responsibility for that, because, well, I gave them all the tools. Why didn't they blow up? Like, why didn't it happen? And that's where I started to narrow my focus into, okay, I can help those people. I can help those people really well. They love me. Like, they loved working with me. They had no complaints. But I figured out, okay, well, who are the ones that are getting the results very quickly? And started to figure out what those metrics were. And then when I started to market to just them, it really made it easier to sell my services. I was also able to sell them at a premium price, because I can say really confidently what kind of results they're going to get. And it just clarified a lot of things and made it easier for me in a lot of ways to be able to structure my business. So now, I'm working 20 hours a week. I have my kids at home when they need to be. And the business model is completely shifted, and what I'm able to do has completely shifted since I really narrowed that focus.
So what general advice would you give to sales leaders, to sales people, to business owners, based on what we've been talking about today?
Yeah. So the advice I would give it is to really get clear on that ideal client. Who are the ones that most value your services, are looking for a solution, and then figure out what those metrics are on who are you going to be able to get the best results for, and really like be super strong on qualifying those people, and don't let yourself get sidetracked by the people you can help, but it's going to take a lot more effort on your part, their part, etc. And they're going to hurt your stats.
Do not hurt your stats.
Do not hurt your stats.
Right. So now I know that you have a free gift for our listeners. Would you tell us about that?
Yeah. So everything we talked about today was all around the buyer's arc. So that decision-making process and what goes into it, et cetera. I actually have a PDF that goes into more detail on what each of those steps are, what type of content to be using in your marketing at each stage, what types of content would be good, whether a webinar, blog post, that kind of thing. And so that can be found at buyersarc.com. And you just put your email address in and I will send that to you. But it's a really good tool to start implementing some of the things we talked about today.
Right, well, we are going to post that link in the show notes. And I know that I am actually going to click on it as soon as we finish here and send you the email so you can send me the PDF, because I am very fascinated by your pre-qualification process. And so any final words of wisdom you would like to share with our listeners today, Holly?
I think I shared all my wisdom.
Okay.
I always
a job well done then.
At the end of an interview, like, I don't know. I don't have any.
No, I'm done. I don't have anything else. So
go eat some ice cream. That's my wisdom for today.
Okay. Well, please check out the show notes. We're going to post the link to Holly's website. We're going to post the link to the Buyer's Arc. So make sure to go to the show notes and click on both of those links. And if you found value in today's podcast, then please think about one business owner, one sales professional, one person that you know that might also find value in today's podcast, and share this link with them. Please also review us, and thank you so much for listening to the Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders podcast. Till we meet again, I am visualizing you, and please visualize yourself surrounded by cash, really large bills.
You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. Be sure to follow so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every week for more exciting insights and wisdom on transforming sales. And until next time, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, very large bills.